I'm driving home, and I like to talk about spiritual things today, Sunday. So, anyways, I was thinking about a lot of things, and one of those things is the Spirit, and how we feel the Spirit, and that the only way to find real truth is through the Spirit. Yes, you can see, believe, test, and other things of that nature, and that would, of course, bring the knowledge of the item that you want to know. However, in the scriptures it says that when you see, God or any other spiritual type of thing, that you no longer have faith or cease to have faith, is what it says. And so, paraphrasing most of that, of course, so that it can be easily understood, because in the scriptures that I read, there's a lot of these and thous and thuses and stuff like that. And so there's a lot of viewers don't understand those types of words. And in the new English Bible and things like that, they paraphrase or change the words so that it's modern day phrases. So anyways, going on. Having faith about things that are true is the precursor to not having faith anymore because you've seen it. So, in the case of Einstein and the theory of relativity, he essentially thought of all of the things that are true and have been proven later on. And so, having the thought patterns and the feelings and the faith and effort put forth to begin to surmise the things that you want to learn. Also, the scripture comes to mind about knocking and seeking and finding and opening. I think the scripture is, seek and ye shall find, knock and it shall be opened unto you. So, with those, Einstein and other geniuses in the world have sought and found and knocked and had it opened unto them. So, having faith is essentially what everybody has as part of their imagination, or things that not quite are imagination. However, things like the comics and Iron Man and heroes and things like that are part of the imagination. And throughout the belief and want and need and just curiosity and awesomeness of reading comics throughout history, throughout the last 100 years and so, or any other time where there was drawings of things of that nature, people in general wanted to be that way or have those powers, and things like that. So, in the latter days, meaning the last 200 years or 300 years or so, technology and knowledge essentially has been shared, and the advancement and acceleration of technology and humanity and knowledge has, of course, accelerated, been happening. So the things in the comics are becoming reality. You know, Dick Tracy had a watch phone that he wore, and that comic is old, 50s to the 70s, and of course continuing today with some Dick Tracy movies and comics. Right now we have the iWatch and Android Wear and things like that are standalone cell phones and other things. It's essentially a lot of functions that weren't included with the Dick Tracy side of things. So, including that into faith, that is what faith is. In God's terms, and in the Bible, and Book of Mormon, and other literature, faith is perceived and taught to have faith in God, and faith in love and humanity, and caring for one another, and things like that. And so, having that ability to have faith in an all-powerful being allows us to want to become like that, as in the comics. And I know it sounds kind of ridiculous sometimes to think that we might become like God. However, if, as in history shows, we have comics, and now some of those and a lot of those comic things, superhero things, are reality, wouldn't it stand to be that if we have faith in the goodness of God and the way He thinks and the way He does things, which is taught to us from the scriptures, that as we believe in those things, and as we think of those things, and as we become those things, we will be more and more like a godlike character, or more and more perfect. There's a lot to be said about perfection. Perfection isn't all of a sudden, and perfection isn't in humanity's sense, besides Christ, doing everything perfect all the time. And there are a lot of scenarios that we cannot predict, and mistakes or accidents in the world does not mean that that person or that scenario isn't perfect. It simply means that the world is going through its natural course, which is mortal, really. And mortality has suffering and things like that, and joy, of course. And so experiencing those things does not mean that perfection isn't running its course. In fact, it means that perfection is running its course. And so, yeah, those are my thoughts. Another thought that I had was that the body, every person has what I call, and the Mormons call, the Spirit of Christ. And being able to access that is meaning that everyone can seek and find and knock and be opened through God. And so a lot of people call that the conscience, um, whether something is good or bad, as to what they're doing. And there's also the ability through doing lots of bad things. I'm talking about things that are really just wrong, in the opinion of anybody else's eyes at that time, as well as wrong in God's eyes. When a person continues to do that wrong thing, they no longer feel the Spirit of Christ and can't communicate with it. And so their conscience is gone. So they don't have the ability to clearly decide what's right and wrong anymore. And with that, there comes a lot of just bad people and psychos and things like that. So having and reacting to the correct way of let's see, it is dark in here. I don't know why that's so dark, but anyways, reacting to the light of Christ is essential, and most people do this, to discovering and finding and knowing a lot of things, and experimenting in your mind, as called a thought experiment, to know things and to really experiment with items, material items, and conceptual items, and spiritual items, really spiritual nouns or spiritual thoughts, aspects of the Spirit, and as well as the words in the scriptures. Experimenting with those things in your mind allows anybody to have inspiration, and also adding work to that ability to be able to find those things that are true and things. The experiment came to mind that when Einstein thought of the theory of relativity and how gravity bends light, there was a solar eclipse where where the sun is behind, the moon is here, and the earth is here. There's a spot, a shadow of the moon on the earth. A few scientists, I don't know which ones or if there were many or just one, went out to prove the theory of relativity to see if gravity bends light. Well, it turned out that there was this star that was shown on the edge of the shadow of the moon, that is really at that time, during that time of day and year and everything, is directly behind the sun, and wouldn't be able to be seen unless that light came and bent around the sun and was directed to where the telescope and the person studying the skies could see it. Astronomy, that's the word I was thinking of. But anyways, that's the Sunday lesson that I really think about a lot, and so I like to just realize that and apply that in my thoughts and experiments and thought experiments and other things in life, So, anyways, happy Sunday, thanks, and have a good day.